Good morning.
How are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Yeah.
I had to do the same thing you had to do right there. Yeah, it's. I had to make it all work as well. So, thanks for doing this.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's good. I think I would do every interview I could this way if I could.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just sitting in the office, no one around. I don't have to worry about anything.
It's tough because I can't intimidate you in, like, my personality. Can't be like, hey, you know what? Like,
that's all you got to do. You just have to lean into the camera, like real close. Like that's intimidating. That's intimidating.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll do this. So you got the new solo record coming out, Matthew Logan Vasquez.
That's right.
It's a full name this time around. You're serious because you're bringing out all three names.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's with the formalities?
Well, the formality is that I own the Instagram name. And I just love. It's funny. It's like there's less confusion with Instagram and more confusion with everything else.
Right.
But it's just nice to have it. I own the web domain, and there's a lot of Matt Vasquez's out there. That's surprising to a lot of like just flat white people, but it's like Vasquez is like Smith. So, and there's a lot of Matts, like there were a lot of Brandons born in the 80s. So there's a lot of Matt Vasquez my age. So
I once asked my mom why she named me Kyle, and she said because it was popular.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, oh, thanks. That's the exact opposite of what most people do. You just throw me in the file. So I feel your pain on that one.
Yeah.
I know how that goes.
I named my son Thor.
You did. I know. And for a while, I couldn't tell. It's like, is that his nickname or is that his real name?
It's his real name. Yeah, it's a family name on Martha, my wife's side.
Is that true?
Then, yeah, and so's Ulysses from this crazy great grandfather of mine who is an atheist and wanted to name all his sons after Homer. So.
You got lucky on that because usually a guy would come up with this like amazingly macho, bizarre name, and the wife would never ever go for it. But you had it on your side at that time.
Well, Thor is just like saying Dave in Norway.
Is it? So it's really common over there.
Super common. Everybody's just like, hi Thor.
That's kind of
it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up the whole fatherhood thing till later in the interview, but since you brought up it, and you love to feature, like you're already pimping your kid out on Instagram.
We'll get all privatized later, but cute babies are cool, and I'm really excited to be a dad, so it's whatever.
And I think the last time we talked, I don't remember if you were just about to have the baby or if you'd just had the baby or whatever, but have you already seen like the impact it's had on how you're supposed to continue in this career?
Yeah, I mean, it changes your priorities. It's very much like, well, whatever happens, that baby's got to get some diapers, and also I need to figure out how to see, of course, my wife Martha, but to see Thor as much as possible too. So that's kind of what I'm doing. This right now. I'm actually in Houston, Texas, at my drummer Judd's house. Because I'm on a Texas residency every week playing Houston and then the Dallas area and then San Antonio or Austin. And then back in November, I did this in California too, and it was really fun. So, but it's great. Martha was just saying yesterday, it's like, this schedule is great. I'm only gone 2 nights a week, but I play 4 or 5 shows a week. So that's great.
Right. So you've kind of figuring it out here. Like you've kind of.
I have this big master plan to be Texas famous. That's my whole. I want to be Texas famous because I grew up actually in Austin, and I remember people like Ian Moore, who's a very Texas famous person he's got this cool career where he can drive around the state of Texas and Oklahoma and Little Rock and anywhere he wants to go. He's not like chained to that, but to be popular in this region is it's its own nation of people. There's so many people here that you can work all these markets. It's pretty crazy.
And you can do it. Yeah, and I hear about some other people, like another one of the hometown guys, Bob Schneider. That's one of his things. Like he'll only go out so many days.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So he can be home with his kids. That's like the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
Unless you're Bob Seger, where you can afford to like take your private jet and just fly
in.
Which Bob.
So, I mean, I know you're not too deep in it yet, but do you find with a new family, everything, that it's easier to do this solo than with Delta Spirit, like without being in a band?
Financially, it's definitely a bit more helpful to kind of like control everything, timing wise and all that. Yeah. But I think really the reason why I did it was because I had too many songs, and a lot of the songs didn't fit within the realm of Delta Spirit. So I wanted to make sure that I like had something to turn people onto. And I tried to do this before, but I made a really crazy record. And that's why I'm calling this record Solicitor Returns, because that idea was Solicitor. Eventually I'll properly, I don't think I'm ever going to really release it. I made these cassette tape flash drives that I've been selling at my residency and on my website, but I took them off the website for a little while, but they're super crazy. It was this really insane record.
What's so crazy about the music?
It was just like every idea that just farted into my brain, I gave it the most due diligence possible. So I have songs like, for example, I have a song called Dog Shit 808 on it. And it sounds like this crazy ATL song.
I'm listening intently.
You froze? You did? Okay. And it's crazy lines like Stacy's on the rag calling me a fag.
So this is just anything that you can get out. Like, I think every artist should actually do this, you know? Just
and it's like
it's almost like cleaning the palate of your creativity, you know, to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it was like this huge catharsis, and I had made it right after the self-titled Delta Spirit record, where everything for me creatively was just peaking, because Delta Spirit had just realized, it's like, no, you're not going to be a folk thing, so you just do whatever you want. So I made a record like that, and it was just crazy.
See, I think you should release this, because that's the stuff that really gets legendary. That's the stuff that becomes famous, that, you know.
It's legendary within my friend group.
and since you only want to be a Texas famous artist, I guess you've already made it. Then you've done everything, right?
No, I got a lot more work to do in Texas. It's a big state.
It is a very big state.
Very big state.
Sometimes wants to become its own country.
That's right, and was once, yes. But
that's true.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so when I set out to make this record, I wanted to make the things that I love about rock and roll. Mm-hmm. That aren't necessarily fitting within the guidelines of Delta Spirit. So I've set out and made this record, and I'm really proud of it. Solicitor Returns. So this is me playing songs that I made super simple so that I can play with anybody, either super loud and crazy or just quiet with an acoustic guitar. So
and who are these anybody's? Because are you playing out on the road with a band, like a regular band?
I'm not. Like, there's only a handful of shows that I'm going to play completely solo, because that's not what this project's really about. It's more about the whole rock and roll thing.
Right.
But that was David Bowie. He's actually alive in my house.
Yes!
Lazarus! Yes! I wish it was.
Oh, thank goodness, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all waiting for that news. We're all waiting for the. You know what? He really. It was just a big elaborate art piece. You know, and like, we forgive you. We forgive you. You know, no one's gonna be mad.
If he did that, like, just wait till it's like it's number one. And he's like, got
it. I'm good now. That's all it took.
He's like, shh.
But he's on track. He's on track to beat Adele. Finally take Adele off.
That's cool.
So that's amazing. Was it these songs? You know, so you're talking about these songs. Were they leftovers from the last record? Because I do remember you saying you had wrote so many for that last record that just didn't make it. So
that's a lot of what happened. Basically, it was like, okay, so I probably put on 7 or 8 songs was my out of 45 that I wrote. So I had all these songs, but then I also kind of wrote a few as I was going. Specifically, once I got the ball rolling with a couple tracks, I think Everything I Do Is Out and Maria on the full-length LP were just those things were like, okay, that's what I'm going to kind of chase after and go towards. And then there's, like, I did this thing with, did 2 things on the record where I doubled down my vocals until I had 25 of myself singing. Yeah.
Wow.
And then
That's not narcissistic
it's
at
the
all.
most narcissistic thing to do, and it's great. And I wanted to make some stuff that kind of had that like Pink Floyd. Oh my god, metal vibe, where it's just kind of like earthy, but psyche, but not too psyche.
Yeah. Well, the ones I've heard so far, of course, we've got the EP, which starts off with Austin and all, 18 minutes?
17:50.
So how does that one start? Do you say, I'm going to write a seriously long song, or does this jam just work so beautifully that you just...
The Austin song comes from, I realized, like, looking back through my lyrics over the past 4 Delta Spirit records, was that the things that had the most impact for me when I was writing them were all based off of a lot of epiphanies that happened when I was young and more of a misfit kid. And I wanted to kind of write a song to kind of sum it up and close that chapter and move on and be something else, and grow into a different skin. So I
like how you didn't say adult right there. Like, you didn't just say kid to adult. Like, that's not the word you use.
No. So, no, not an adult, but maybe a dad. But
Yeah.
I wanted to write this song, so it ended up having a lot of things, because I just basically told my story of growing up in Austin, and that's where I was born in California, but that's, as a kid, was kind of awakened with rock and roll music and Nirvana and everything, and then my parents splitting and dropping acid and going back and forth between Texas, and my experience with Christianity and my experience of post-Christianity or spiritual, like being agnostic, and also being a drunken idiot, and then meeting my wife, who is showing me loving kindness and forgiveness and all the spiritual things I craved in a God I sought.
Wow.
I found it in my wife.
That's an amazing story.
On one 12-inch side of vinyl.
On one 12-inch side. And there it is.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing that you can tell an entire story in one song, and then you're like, welp, what am I going to write about now?
I tried to shorten it, too, to make it work for radio, because I think, like, I like the chord structure, and it has that, like, CSNY, cat power thing. But I felt like any verse I took, I was like, I can't do without it. So,
no, you know what? And we'll go back to David Bowie on this. The first thing he releases from this is the nearly 10-minute song of Black Star to the radio, and he says, "Play it, pussies. You gotta play it." So I'll do you one. The next holiday, when I've got some open programming, I will play every minute of Austin.
Yes, do it,
because it deserves it. It deserves it. I will do that. I promise you that.
Yeah.
The other song, of course, then we hear "Everything I Do Is Out," and this is a freaking great rock song.
Yeah.
What does that line mean? I'm not exactly a lyrics guy, but it's such a cool line.
For me, it's just the sentiment is stop giving a shit what people think is cool or not. Don't care. It's not about that, and I can live my life and have tons of fun not being the cool one. So come on over to the not cool side and play rock and roll still. It's so fun.
I don't think anybody's gonna throw you in the not cool side. I mean, rock and roll goes in its ups and downs, and that's one thing. Like, to be a rock and roll band, without any kind of weird shtick, or tag put on the side of it. Like, that is a challenge in 2016.
That's been the great challenge of my life, and being in Delta Spirit. All of us together have that challenge, where it's just like, how do you be friends and play music that people just like? And, a couple people get really fortunate because their music's just so standout, like Wilco or My Morning Jacket. I think those two bands are undeniable live bands with undeniable great songwriters that don't need to have like a, thing. And that is my goal in my life, is I would like to just simply play music and have somebody dub me rock and roll would be great. Just fall under that, in that.
You just have to keep, it's happening. Like, I remember the first time I met you guys was at a Lollapalooza a few years back, and that was the big press story right then. Like, Delta Spirit are trying rock and roll on. You know, like, that was the thing. Like, you had always been rock and roll, of course, and I know how the press works, and you always need some kind of the story to go. But but that's it. I mean, you know, that's what Delta Spirit is. That's what this solo record is.
Yep.
And I'll keep going on that too, because the new single is Personal, which is basically sounds like it's just saying, and now I get to do a solo record.
Yeah,
like is this a song about doing a solo record?
But this is this is the song. So this song I wrote when I was 19 years old, when I was leaving a different band, and I just sat there for a long time, and I was like, man, this song is so good. And I kept trying to put it in Delta Spirit, and they're like, it just never fit a Delta Spirit record. And then it was like, oh, well, now I'm definitely doing it. So
this song's been around that long? Yeah.
It was about a band I was in that I'm not even going to bring up. It was a band I used to play shows. It was like the band that there's like many glass ceilings in this business, but one of them is the pay to play. And that was like, thanks, John, over at Chain Reaction, who's now at Pomona Glass House. He was like the first guy who's like, all right, you don't have to sell tickets, but you gotta make sure people show up. And I like begged people. It's like, and I got 100 people of my little ratty underage friends to go to the show. And that was like the band. So that band ended up doing stuff enough to where we got signed to Interscope. But I was the only one that got the deal. And it was during that crazy early odds time. And the band was already kind of going shh by then. So, and I realized
that's always an odd thing to hear when I hear those stories, because that story, you know, it's been told a lot. Times. But like here's a band, but we're only signing one of you.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. But it was, and I tried to stick it out, but it was also. It was a really hard decision, but I also was kind of like, you know, this is a huge opportunity. And I mean, I ended up spending $90,000 of a major record company's budget and hung out in studios and learned how to write songs and made I met musical parents that I didn't know I had. You know, I learned about Tom Waits and the weird part of Tom Waits, not just like closing time Tom Waits. Then I learned about Dylan's another side of Bob Dylan, you know, and like all of the other acoustic folk stuff that he did in those lyrics. Oh my God.
So you got a scholarship. That's what you got.
Basically, that was like, here's a scholarship to learn how to not be an idiot.
I'm glad it's worked out.
Here's Lou Reed. Don't be like...
I'm glad it's worked out. But you did. I don't know how much of your family background helped you, but it seemed like you did have a start on that, because what did I see the other day with you about your grandma making Fender amps?
That's right.
Like, you were born into rock and roll in some respect.
My grandma worked at Fender before they had bathrooms. They had to go across the like catty corner to like a gas station.
So
it's a sixth employee.
It was deep in your blood right from the beginning.
She gave me a Stratocaster when I was in third grade, and my brother a guitar when I was 5. So I would always like steal it, and he would just be like, ah! And it used to be a toy until a kid came over in the neighborhood and knew how to play "Come As You Are." And then I remember like walking into the garage, and I saw them just doing that, and I was like, I gotta do that. And like just lightning bolts in my brain, like, I have to do this.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's what my son, he's 8, and he just came home the day before yesterday, and he said, Daddy, I'm going to start a band for the talent show, and it's going to be called the Rockers. I don't want to get into the legalities yet. It's like that's probably taken, but it's great. You know, I'm really happy about this.
Yeah.
So he asked me for my guitar, and I handed him an acoustic. He goes, no, the real one.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
Yeah, the real one.
I used to have this little solid state Fender amp, and then when I got a real amp, which was a crate, which had the button that you can get the overdrive, and I was like, now I have a real amp. I have a crate. That's the real and it has the overdrive, so I can play the Randy Rhoads.
I hope to hear that on tour at some point this year.
Crazy Train.
Yeah. Just hearing you.
Oh yeah. we've been talking about rules of threes, and I just brought up Ozzy, and then it like freaked me out.
No.
With like Lemmy, Ozzy's gotta live to be 100, and then that will be the legend.
Yeah. I'm counting this rule of three closed. I don't think anyone's thought about it, but with Natalie, well, I was going to say with Natalie Cole dying, I think that's the excuse we're going to use right there. It's like it's closed. It's done. No one else dies. So
yeah.
So I know it's a different kind of genre there. Anyway, let's close this one down. Matthew Logan Vasquez, Solicitor returns and solicits all over the country.
Yeah.
We'll see you out on the road, and then I guess eventually another Delta Spirit thing down the road as well.
Yes, we're working in the midst of all this stuff, trying to figure out how to make another record. But I have there's all these slots open for that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do it.
I can't wait, and I can't wait to hear the rest of this one. I mean, I've only heard a handful of songs so far that's been released, so I freaking
it's
love it.
in the mail.
Man.
I have it back mailing you a record like today. Awesome. Actually, DIY.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear it, and I'll be playing Austin at some point on the radio soon too. So
sweet.
All right, man. It was great talking to you.
Same. Thanks.
I'll see you around.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.